Smith is waiting there, and he had a big old grin on his face, being the old Marine that he was. And he says, well, I hope you're ready for your PT test. And I said, I'll be out in my trunks in 10 minutes.
Well, what year was this again?
This was now in 1989.
Okay.
So I did. I showed up in August. The base was empty, totally empty. Everybody was on fires or going on booster crews. So Walt runs me through the PT test, and he takes me out on the units, and just did my training in about 3 days, and so I already had all my fire training, so I didn't have to I just had to get my refresher. So he says, you need your 3 jumps, you know that? I said, yeah. He says, well, you're the base superintendent. I said, yeah. He said, all you have to do is put an order in for the plane. Oh, okay.
That's cool.
So I got the plane out there and made a couple of jumps, and then we had a fire run. We got a few jumpers back. And it was so I think there was about 4 jumpers in the airplane. There weren't that many. So Walt said, well, why don't you go with me? I'll spot, and we'll start check spotting you while we're at it. So I was in a crash course of, I'd been out of it 2 years. It wasn't like I had totally forgotten everything. So we get up in the airplane, and this is where I met Margarita Phillips. Margarita Phillips just retired, only the second woman ever to retire as a smoke jumper. And she was out of Missoula. And so anyway, so here's this young lady standing in the door, and I'm spotting, and she's looking down at me, and she's kind of nervous, and she's getting ready to go and everything, and I'm dropping streamer. Finally, she couldn't help herself, and I'm down on my knees watching the streamers and stuff, and she kind of taps me on the helmet, and she said, who are you? I said, I'm your base superintendent, I'm your boss, now get ready to jump.
That's good.
So that was the first time I met Marge. So anyway, and that started my tenure as the superintendent. It was interesting. It was challenging.
How many jumpers were out of Missoula at that time?
At that time, there was about 70 jumpers out of Missoula.
And what were the new man classes running?
They were running about 25, 30. We were getting pretty big rookie classes.
And who were your foremen when you started?
At that time, there was in the loft was Jim Sear. Mm-hmm. Steve Claremont was a loadmaster. Walt Smith was a training, and Bernie Hildy was the operations. So there were some old salts.
Well, was Charlie Rogers working then? Or was he
Charlie Rogers was already in the dispatch organization.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So it was, when I got there, it was really interesting. I sat down with Jim Mann and Bob Wagenfer. Jim Mann was the director. Bob Wagenfer was the operations deputy director, who was my immediate supervisor. And they gave me some pretty hard marching orders. One of them was reduce injuries. He said, this is going to kill the smoke jumper program if we can't reduce the number of injuries we're having every year. The other thing was improve diversity. He said Missoula is not very well represented, and we want some improvement in diversity.
And when they talk about diversity, were they talking about the ethnic diversity, or were they what?
All aspects.
Male, female?
Male, female. At that time, there was 2 women smoke jumpers in Missoula, Kim Maynard and Marge Phillips. That was it. And the director at the time was a lady named Mary Jo Lavin, and that's why diversity all of a sudden.
You mean director of the U.S. Forest Service?
Yeah, nationally.
Okay.
And she was really pushing the diversity issue, and it needed to be done so. There was definitely a lot of misrepresentation or lack of representation, I should say. So we wanted to do it smart. And so, I sat down with all the foremen, had a transition meeting. It was a very challenging time. I was the first superintendent not to be from the Bitterroot. Okay? Look at all the superintendents up until me, they were all Bitterrooters, right? And they were all homegrown Missoula boys. And all of a sudden, here comes this guy from Hurley, New Mexico.
Alien from New Mexico.
I wasn't from Roswell, though.
Yeah.
So, but I knew a lot of folks. There was a lot of folks there that were very supportive. So I probably was no different than any other base manager that gets the job. You have the camp that supports you, and then you have the camp that thinks that you can't do the job. So, I was smart enough by then to really surround myself with folks that were focused on doing as best we could for the jumper program. And that's what I told them. Every decision that I make is going to be to keep the smoke jumper alive and well and vibrant and a tool that's efficient for the U.S. Forest Service. That's my job. And I took that very seriously. And we have to realign some things, but we're not going to totally change the program. And by realigning, I meant we're going to change some of our work ethics, we're going to realign some of our training ethics, and we're going to realign some of our personnel, the way we're made up as far as personnel. So there was a lot of work to do. And because I took my marching orders serious. I mean, my bosses told me to do it. And I told them too, if I'm going to do the other thing they told me, at that time there were a lot of jumpers on the rolls that were not active jumpers, that weren't taking the PT test. They were in jumper positions, but because they had, getting up in age or had little injuries, they kind of started slacking off, and there was a lot of non-jumping smoke jumpers. And they gave me 1 year to clean that up. And that was not my doings, but management's doings. Personnel management got directly involved. So that was another thing that I had to do. And it created some discomfort, but you know what? We got refocused as a unit. I really do believe that.
So how long did you have Walt Smith before he passed away?
The whole time.
The whole time you were
Yeah,
there? Huh?
he passed away after I left. Walt was a rock in the unit. He was well respected and well liked by everybody. And Walt and I actually had a very good relation, very strong, solid relationship. Well, I think a little bit had to do, his wife was from New Mexico. His wife and I had gone to college together, so there was another little connection there. And so I relied on him. He was somebody that I could always trust on, I could always sound things off of. And then there was a bunch of younger jumpers that Eddie Ward, who later became the superintendent, just retired about a year ago. He was there. I had trained him as a rookie. And so there was a lot of folks that I had trained as rookies that I had good relationships that were just prime for becoming squad leaders. So when I had opportunities for overhead, obviously you always are going to, pick qualified people that you're going to work with.
Well, you were concerned about maintaining the overhead and improving it, training it for the jump program. Did you ever get involved did any of those guys, all those people, get involved in the incident command system overhead system?
Oh yeah.
How did that work? I mean,
Okay.
you had a real program to run, you had
Yeah.
that.